Now that we have our drop cloths down, the next step is to prep the walls. One of the first things you want to do is take a screwdriver and remove all those electrical outlet cover plates, because it makes it much easier to cut in around those with your paint if these are out of the way first. The second step is to go through and remove all nails and screws out of the walls that might be there from hanging pictures before. Once you get those out, you're going to need a putty knife or some type of a scraper to actually use the spackle and fill those holes. Now you're going to let that dry for a while. After it's dried, you're going to want to sand it. Now if it's just small jobs, a simple piece of sandpaper like this will allow you to finish those up to the quality that you need for finishing your paint. If it's a larger patch, you've got a major hole in the wall and it's taken you several coats to get that where you need it to be, you're probably going to want a wall sander. Something like this. We put it on the end of an extension pole and actually sand the wall. But we'll demonstrate some of this as we go along so that you can see what we're doing. Once you've removed all the nails from the wall, take a little time to make sure that those nail holes are flush. A lot of times you'll end up with high ridges around the holes. You need to clean that off before you try to spackle the wall. Once the holes are flush, use a small amount of spackle to fill that hole. Take your time on this step. Smooth it out, clean as much of that off of the wall as you can, and then you'll let it dry. This is an important step. A lot of times it takes a while for those holes to dry, and in the process, much of the spackle can shrink. So you may have to fill holes more than once before you're happy with the end result. After you've let them dry completely, you'll be able to sand those. Don't try to sand it unless it's completely dry. You'll ruin the entire patch job. Once you've given your patches a thorough amount of time to dry, and this is very important, make sure that they are completely dry, you're ready to sand. If you're just sanding a couple of patches, a piece of 80 or 120 grit sandpaper is probably the way to go. Make sure that you've sanded it thoroughly, because you'll find out a lot of times that your patches have shrunk a bit even after it's dried. After you've sanded, run your hand over the wall and make sure that it's still smooth. You may have to go back and patch a little more and then wait for it to dry and sand. Take your time on this step, because a good surface is important to a good quality paint job. If you find you have large areas to sand, you'll probably want to use a pole sander rather than a piece of sandpaper. Pole sanders allow you to cover a large surface area in a shorter amount of time, plus with the addition of the extension pole, you have better leverage to get a fine finish so that you're ready to paint. Once you finish sanding, it's very important that you clean the dust off of the surfaces. No paint is going to stick well to a dusty wall. Again, if you have small areas, a simple dust cloth or dry rag would help you clean the dust out of the way. For larger areas or larger quantities of dust, if you've had to be aggressive in your sanding, pick up something like the Worcester Dust Eater, which is specially designed to pick up the dust and get it out of your way. Our walls are now ready for paint. Stick around for next time when we show you how to tape a room and cut in.